Margaret walks into church. When she walks into church, because we had already talked about this, somebody was going to be at that side door. Somebody was going to be at that front door. Somebody was going to be sitting with my mom. Guess who was at the front door? You guessed it. Me. My brother and Monique sat with my mom. Bubba was at the side door. Now keep in mind, the Animosity is building in the building now that my mom is there. She's still sitting by herself. My Aunt Loretta gets up from where she is sitting and she goes sit with my mom. While the rest of them sit over there. Soon as I walk into the church, here comes the one in the wheelchair and the hillbilly pushing her. Soon as I walk in, the first uncle walks up on me. When he walks up on me, he says this. My aunt came and she walked up on me. She said to me, she said, Monica, I don't know what the fuck is going on between y'all and this funeral, but this is not the time. And she reached up to grab me. When she grabbed me, I grabbed her arm. When I grabbed her arm, my aunt that was pushing her, the hillbilly, she grabbed for me. But when she grabbed for me, here he came. Then when he came, the first thing he said was, y'all not getting ready to start no shit in here because all this is your mother's fault. I told him, I said, listen to what I tell you. Back up off of me because I am getting ready to cut you from your penis to your damn throat. You better get the hell away from me, and you better get the hell away from me now. Soon as I said get the fuck away from me, keep in mind, Edie had made it over there to where Bubba and Margaret's husband was. When she made it over there, she saw what was going on, so everybody started looking. By this time, Monique turned around, and she looked at them, and she reached down in her purse. When she reached in her purse, that brought Margaret out the chair. When Margaret came out the chair, they started heading to where I was. But keep in mind, the way that my mother raised us not to be scared of nothing but death and God. That's it. At the end of the day, listen to me. We was getting ready to get my mom the hell up out of there. Because keep in mind, the whole time this is going on, the Reverend is giving the eulogy for my grandma who got on a pair of jogging pants and a sweater. Yeah. With the ugliest wig I have ever seen in my entire existence. My grandma wasn't like that. But see, if they had did the right thing, if they was after the right thing, they would have allowed my mom to take care of my grandma like she took care of my granddaddy. But see, money was the root of all evil when this was going on. Everybody, now keep in mind, let me tell you how many people was in this funeral. The whole left side of the funeral, all my mother's brothers and sisters was in the front row. They kids was in the back of them in the next 4 rows. And then it was all my mom's cousins and stuff and my grandma's sisters. She only had 2. One just passed. But at the end of the day, on the right-hand side, there was Monique, Bubba, and my mother. Margaret's husband was at the door, the side door, with Edie. Then it was friends of the family on this side, where my mother was sitting before my Aunt Loretta came and sat with her. Now, keep in mind, the Reverend is trying to, the air is so thick in there, you could cut it with a knife. My right hand to God, he could have cut the animosity in this funeral. Oh my God. Monique turned and she looked back down at the door where I was standing. When she looked at the door where I was standing, the first thing came out of her mouth was, Monica, are you okay? I told her yes. By this time, the other brother done got up. Now, keep in mind, let me tell you how they are. They're tall. And they're big. They're as big as my dad was. They're as big as my dad was. When I say as big as my dad was, they like kicking 6'4", 6'5". The one that the one that said he was going to spit in my mother's face is the one. See, let me go back. When my grandma was having kids, my mother, my aunt with the beard, my Aunt B, and my mom is the first 3. My mom being the baby of all three. When my grandma started having the second set of kids, when she had them, she would give each one of the girls one of the kids. The one that wanted to spit in her face, that was the one she raised. Let's keep that in mind. That's the one she raised. The one that said he was going to spit in her face and dislocate her arm, that's the one we want. That's the one we was after. That's the one that to this day, not even a month ago, started some more shit with my mom. But keep in mind, not only 2 months ago did he start this, but 6 months ago he got sick. And my mom was so worried. And all she was trying to do was check on him. But that's a whole nother story. The Reverend turned around and he looked at us and he stopped the entire funeral. And he said, I don't know what's going on in this church. He said, but y'all need to stop. Because Miss Duncan wouldn't have never wanted y'all to be like this. We have to respect her. But all the while, all we got on our mind is 3 things. They took her, they kept us away from her, and my mama sitting by herself. So yeah, everything was good. The shit was officially hitting the fan at this point. Keep in mind, I'm in the back of the church. By this time, that had brought Margaret up out the pews and she's on her way to where I am. Because see, keep in mind, my mother raised us that you don't leave your sister. At the end of the day, Margaret caught on to what was going on because at this time, the one in the wheelchair, I'm pushing her hands off of me. He's still standing there. The one that's pushing her is trying to help her catch my attention. She's trying to get me out of his face. He's trying to be in my face, and I ain't scared of none of them. Not one. But by the time Margaret got down there, she grabbed for the one that I call the hillbilly. When she grabbed for the hillbilly, Margaret spun her around. She said, get the fuck out my sister's face. By this time, Monique had stood my mom up. The funeral is still going on. Monique had stood my mom up. My mom reached down her purse. Everybody stops. My mom sits back down. And do you remember in the story I told a couple of days ago? I told y'all that it was a biker. Her name is Yo-Yo, and she could sing her ass off. She started walking into the funeral. When she walked into the funeral, she just started singing. The man was still talking. She just started singing. And she kept calling for my mother. When she got close to where my mother was, she came to my mom only. She didn't sing for everybody else. She got in my mom's face and she sung directly to my mother. And she told her, I'm not singing for nobody. I'm singing for mama. And that's what she called her. By this time, my mom still has not shed one tear. The reason why my mom didn't shed one tear, because see, regardless of how anybody is taking this, my mom ain't no punk bitch. My mom is not no punk bitch. She's not. My mom still got her shit together. But she's there to see her mother. That's the only time. My mother turned around and she told him, she said, this is not my mama. This is a shell. I didn't get to see my mom. My mother started grabbing for her stuff. That brought Monique and them up out the chair. That brought Margaret's husband out that door. That brought Clyde to his feet. Now, keep in mind, Monique is leading my mom up out of that funeral. I'm still at the door. By this time, they done moved over. He done called the other big dumb one dumber. He done called stupid over there to where they at. So he's walking over to where everybody else is. Now, keep in mind, my mom is the main focus, not my grandma at this point. Because they already know we get ready to tear this funeral to pieces if we don't get my mom up out of here. By this time, my mom is breaking down because it's her mom. My mom gets ready to walk past the casket. Now, keep in mind, that brought the brother that don't like my mom, the one that she raised, we're going to call him Dumbass. That brought Dumbass up out his chair. My mom went to the casket and she kissed her mom for the very last time. That was the only time my mom got to see her mom. That was the only time my mom got to see her mom. And she had been dead for 7 days. That's the only time any of us got to see her. Because keep in mind, everybody else got to see her. Everybody else was permitted to come to his house. Everybody else got to see my grandma. Not only was my mom had a restraining order, but they put the restraining order on us. Mm-hmm. See, this is my thing about this whole thing. They were so childish and so vindictive, they couldn't think of nothing else how to hurt my mother but to take her mother away from her. So yes, the animosity is still there. Because keep in mind, I told y'all, 6 months ago he got sick. But see, they tell you never, ever, ever to hold a grudge. They tell you not to hold a grudge. They tell you to let stuff go. But listen to me, that's my mama. And karma is a bitch. What starts on the 12 will always end on the motherfucking 12. So everybody can say that, I didn't have nothing to do with it. Karma, baby. And it's hitting them hard now. See, because we walked my mom out of there. They was having this big dinner at a repast that my mother wasn't even invited to. And this is her mother. This was her mother. My mother never got to go to no repast or nothing. They didn't even tell her where it was. Monique and Bubba took my mom to Golden Corral and she ate. We laid my mom down and she called it a day. She never even went to the graveside. She never went to the graveside, but her and my Aunt Loretta paid for a beautiful bench for my grandma and granddaddy. Because my grandma got laid to rest next to my granddaddy. And when they got ready to put my grandma down in the ground broke where her and my granddaddy was. So their caskets is touching. Yeah. At the end of the day, I have seen my mom at her best all the time. But this was one time I could not believe how broken my mom was. It took after the funeral, everybody kept looking to see, was my mom going to buy anything? Was she going to be giving us any money or anything like this? But keep in mind, we all worked. We all had our own shit. But they were so in tune on to see what my mom was going to do with this money. My mom held on. My mom held on to the insurance policy. She held on to it until her car caught on fire. My mom was on her way home one day, and her car caught on fire. Some young teenage boys saw my mom's car on fire and busted her window out and got my mom out of the car. Monique went to my mom and she told her, she said, Mom, go ahead and cash that damn insurance policy in because you can't see your mother. And get you a car because your car is on fire. But the whole time they thought that my mom had something close to $100,000 damn near. The way they was trying to fight my mom. The way they talked about my mom. The way they made my mom feel. When my grandma passed, what? Before they stole her out of her apartment, my mom would go over there every day and make sure she ate, cleaned up her apartment, made sure she was clean, made sure she had food. My mom would cook an entire meal for my grandma. Her and my grandma would eat. My mom made sure my grandma went to her doctor's appointments. My mom made sure my grandma was together. But all they could do was they stole my grandma out of her apartment. They stole her out of her apartment, got a restraining order, and the whole time that this was going on, the one in the wheelchair, my mom this is the killer part for me about the one in the wheelchair. See, I have to tell y'all a whole separate story on her because see, she was I could not believe it was a human being that was so dirty like this one was. The whole time that she was telling them about how much money was on the insurance policy and who had it and all this other shit, my mom was steadily taking care of her. My mom was taking care of her. She was feeding her. She was cleaning her house up. She was making sure she got to her doctor's appointment. When she got sick, my mom would go out to the nurse home or to the hospital where she was until she got home. My mom would pick her up every day and pick her up because she had no legs. Pick her up and put her in her car and would take her with her to Goodwills and this, so she wouldn't be stuck in the house. But this person, the whole time my mother taking care of her ass, she was fucking over my mom at any cost. She was doing this and she amped them up. They said they was going to pull her off. I could not understand for the life of me why they thought that that was going to pass with us. You going to spit in my mom's face? No, you're not. No, you're not. And this is what we told them. But see, keep in mind, Monique was a nasty motherfucker. She wasn't as loud as me. But when she put her fucking foot down, that bitch meant what the fuck she said. She told them, y'all got this one off on my mom, you won't get another one. The day that I catch your shadow over to my mom's house, that's where the fuck they will find you. Is what she told the one that says they was going to pull her dumbass. That's what she told dumbass in his face. And to this day, even when my sister passed, his ass stood outside of a truck outside of my sister's funeral and didn't even come in. So yeah, I have a lot of animosity. The reason why I wasn't too keen on telling y'all the rest of this one, because I knew it was going to stir up a whole lot of other shit that I have in my brain to tell y'all about these people, see. When some stories like this story, the story about how my friend set me up with his dad and all this other stuff, when I tell those kind of stories, those stories hit other stories. And that story got another story to it. So now I got to go back and I got to tell y'all about the one in the wheelchair. I got to tell you about the hillbilly. I got to tell you about the brothers. It's the brothers for me. So yeah, this is how this was when my grandma passed. They hadn't spoke to my mom. They didn't speak to my mom. They still not speaking to my mom. The sisters start trying to speak a little bit, kind of, sort of, because I got to tell y'all about Barry Betty and her fucking son. So yeah, it's a lot to go. It's a lot to unpack here. It's a lot to unpack here. Driving past my mom's house, threatening my mom. But see, my mom is not no punk bitch. She just not. My mom walks from her door to her car. At my right-handed guy, you know I ain't lying. She walks from her house to her car with her gun outside of her pocket, in her hand, walking. She should not have to do that. You should do that when it's strangers, not when it's your siblings. Yeah. This is a lot to unpack. I got a lot to unpack with this one. See, I'm talking to y'all like y'all my neighbors. I'm talking to y'all like we were sitting right here. Because at the end of the day, this is the story that started the host of all the stories. So yeah, it's a lot to unpack here. So I think because I done got emotional, not in a bad way, but I'm feeling some type of way. I feel like I can't right now because I don't want to be this angry because I'm angry and I'm aggressive. And I don't want to be angry or aggressive when I talk to y'all. But nevertheless, I am totally transparent when it comes to my stories because, see, this is not fictional. This is my real life. This is what's going on right now. Because keep in mind, I just told y'all 6 months ago he got sick and my mom was worried. That's the story. The one in the wheelchair passed. That's the story. The hillbilly in her arm. That's the story. Bearded Betty trying to make up with my mom. That's a story. But in between those stories is more stories. Because I tell y'all all the time, I use y'all as my psychiatrist. I use y'all. Y'all are my Dr. Phil. So yeah, it's a lot to unpack here. So I'm going to say it again. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you in my next story. Bye.